On today's show, the Houston Rockets should have beaten the LA Clippers in this game. We're going to tell you why they didn't. Alperen Sengun's monster game just wasn't enough. Plus, his Achilles heel continues to be his free throw shooting. Jabari's defensive struggles in this game, and so much more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
Throw it up to Jalen Green.
Sengun here in the short row. Oh my, that's the no look.
Jabari for three and the win. Yeah!
Look at Tari, Eason.
Here comes Tari.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
The Houston Rockets select Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore.
One thing I have never done is not made the playoffs, and so we want to take that step here as well.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Houston Rockets unable to spoil James Harden's first return to Houston as a member of the LA Clippers this time. What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets, free and available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including YouTube. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off of your first purchase. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day. Thank you for being an everydayer, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you for making the show part of your day every single day. Joining us now is your weekly co-host, NBA draft enthusiast, and diehard Houston Rockets fan, Madison Moore. You can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. We didn't even get a peace sign from Madison because he's so dejected after this Rockets loss. We got the little hat tip, instead. Madison, stop me if you heard this one before. Rockets late game execution issues stopped them from winning a game where they had every chance and then some to win this game late. They led by at least they led by 1 point, and they had a really solid strategy at the end of this game. The hack of Plumlee strategy, which was implemented beautifully all of exactly one time with 3 minutes left to go in this game. And yet they let this one slip away after leading by as many as 20 against a very, very good Clippers team. And there's a lot of reasons why this game got out of hand. There's a lot of good that we're going to unpack from this one. But I think what we have to talk about here is just the distinct lack of discipline and late game execution from literally all five players on the court for the Rockets. Like, everybody made mistakes in the closing minutes of this game against the Clippers.
Yeah, this was a classic case of experienced team never panicking, wearing the Rockets down. I almost feel like the Clippers never even went on a real offensive run to get back in the game. They just kind of won, these little spurts by 4 points, 6 points. And before we knew it, it was a 6-point game going into the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? And then they did the same thing, wore us down that way. Our defensive game plan seemed to fall apart. And then the Clippers seem to make just a couple more plays defensively. And then we get into this situation where we have where every possession counts. Like, every possession, we're in crunch time, every possession counts, and we can't make a free throw, right? And especially in a game where the referees were honestly not calling any fouls on both sides, which is fine with me. I thought they called it even both ways. Nobody got calls tonight. Nobody did, right? And the only people who really got calls were stars, and that was our star was Alperen Sengun. And unfortunately, with one of the best games I've seen him play, all around games, he could not make his free throws when it counted most. I think he was 3 of 8 tonight.
Three of seven.
I'm 3 of 7. Sorry. 3 of 7 tonight from the free throw line. Bleacher Report must be wrong. Sometimes Bleacher Report stats be.
All right, Bleacher Report's tripping. Alpi was 3 of 7.
3 of 7. Okay, for sure. All right. So yeah, he was 3 of 7 tonight, and I know 4 of those came at least in the fourth quarter, and times where we needed those buckets. And then our defensive game plan, like you were talking about, the hack of Plumlee. I mean, it worked for one possession. And then the next possession, the Clippers made a great defensive block, which led to a fast break and a Paul George three.
On that possession with the Paul George three, I was so, because look, the Clippers had the power play, right? They had a 5-on-4. It was transition play.
Yes,
made
right.
sense. But the moment they started to, they kind of pulled things back out for like a split second and started to like set up in the half court for a moment. I had no idea why none of the Rockets 5 players, that were on the court, like Ime had literally just subbed Min Thompson in to intentionally hack Plumlee. That had to have still been the game plan. And we know that it was the game plan because a few possessions later, they tried to hack Plumlee again and they didn't get the call. And then they tried it again under 2 minutes. And thank God the refs didn't whistle.
Oh
this
my
one.
God.
But Sengun tried to foul Plumlee with like under 2 minutes to go. That would have been 2 free throws and the basketball back. So there was just, mental lapse after mental lapse by the Rockets late in this game. The shooting, the free throw shooting, look, it's been Alperen Sengun's Achilles heel this entire season, as phenomenal as he's been. And we're going to talk about his incredible game: 23 points, 19 rebounds, 14 assists, 2 steals. First center, I apologize, in NBA history to post those numbers ever, all time. We're going to talk about his incredible game because there was a lot of good that came from it. But if you're going to be the best player, you're going to be held to a high standard. You have to hit your free throws. Alperen Sengun was sent to the free throw line when the game was 115-112, had 2 chances at the charity stripe to cut it to a 1-point game with like 60 seconds left, a little over a minute left, whatever it was. And he missed both free throws. That was a huge kind of tipping point in the game. And then the Clippers came back down on the other end, right? Paul George gets fouled, goes to the free throw line. Fred VanVleet, that's supposed to be the veteran leader, the guy who's supposed to corral these young guys and make sure they know what they're doing and kind of steering them through crunch time. He loses his composure and gets teed up. And so they spot the Clippers an extra point. So they nail all 3 free throws. So now they're up 6 instead of what could have been a 1-possession game in a game where the Rockets had played some really solid defense. Now the Clippers, over the course of the game had heated up and, the defense wasn't anywhere near as good in the second half, and especially there in the fourth quarter as it was earlier in the game. But that's a much better spot to be in, down 1, 115-114, instead of what happened, which was down 3, and then you spot them an extra point and then send PG to the free throw line and basically make it a 2-possession game, 118-112. There was just so much bad in those final few minutes from this Rockets team, man. It's just like, I don't know if I've seen them unravel that poorly in a long time.
The Fred VanVleet, I understand why Fred VanVleet was upset, because just like we said, the refs have been calling it even, and I'm pretty sure he felt as if that play, he had just had a very physical play going to the basket the possession before and did not get the call. And so there was an equally physical play the other way with Paul George, and Paul George got the call. And that's that, the star thing where your stars get calls, right? And so, but nonetheless, you have to take advantage of the opportunities you get. Yes, Fred, you have to be better. You have to be better and more poised in those situations, but also defensively. I mean, I don't know what happened to our pick and roll defense in that fourth quarter, really the whole second half. The pick and roll defense, the help side, low man just was non-existent the entire second half. And that really opened, I feel like, really got their offense going, and then got the Rockets over helping, which got Paul George open for 3, which Harden found those guys every single time, made the right decision in the second half. The pick and roll defense, I think, was a much bigger issue in that second half and kind of got them going.
The Clippers definitely were heating up as the game went on, and some of that was just them making more shots. Some of it was also the Rockets defense not nearly being as intense as it was earlier in the game. You definitely felt the physicality, the intensity kind of wane as the game went on. Here's the Clippers field goal percentage by quarter against the Rockets. They shot 40% in the first quarter, 45% in the second quarter, 63.6% in the third quarter, and then they shot 72.2% in the fourth quarter. They were just, as the game went on, they just heated up. They were unstoppable. When you've got so many guys like a Kawhi Leonard, a Paul George, a James Harden, it's really hard to stop just one of those guys, let alone 3 of them on any given night. And for Paul George especially, right, he had an abysmal first half, only 2 points in that first half. He was not himself in the first half. He got into a rhythm there kind of to start the third quarter and just overall in that second half on his way to his 21-point outing. So he had 19 points scored in the second half. Rockets just didn't have an answer for him. Part of that came from, unfortunately, some of the subpar defense by Jabari Smith Jr. in this game. We're going to talk about that coming up. We'll talk about Sengun's monster night, what more needs to happen for the Rockets to be able to capitalize on games like this when Sengun has a big game. Obviously, he needs to make his free throws. That's one part of the equation. But what else needs to happen for the Rockets to be able to win these games when Sengun puts up such, a dominant performance? We're going to talk about all that and so much more coming up here in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the very next corner? Well, our friends over at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the very next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of having to connect your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen right there at your fingertips. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Or hey, maybe you want a little bit more space. The 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing capacity. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. So Madison, not only did, we got the bad out of the way here. There was a lot of good from this game. There was. And one of the biggest factors in this game was obviously Alperen Sengun, who played a whopping 42 minutes, 3 more minutes than anybody else in the entirety of the game, because you had like Paul George, Kawhi, James Harden all played 39 minutes for the Clippers. For the Rockets, the next highest minutes guy was Fred VanVleet, played 39 minutes. So Sengun played a game high 42 minutes across the board for the Houston Rockets. Everybody except for Alperen Sengun, Amin Thompson, and Aaron Holiday. Everybody else was a net negative in their minutes. But of all the guys who played substantial minutes for the Rockets, Alpi was the only one who finished with Alpi and Jalen Green were the only two finished with a positive plus minus. Sengun a +2 in his 42 minutes played. He had the 23 points, 19 rebounds, 14 assists, a career high 14 assists to go along with 2 steals, 10 of 19 shooting. So he followed up his insane 45-point performance against Wemby with arguably yet another one of the best games of his career, because we really saw what it could look like when the Rockets play their game plan properly, right? Like getting the ball to Sengun, the Clippers were doubling him, and he was getting rid of the basketball. And I thought one of the best kind of adjustments and developments from this Rockets team. We've talked about their need to cut when Alpi has the basketball. But in this game, very early on in this game, they were using baseline cuts as like a safety valve, as like a release valve for the Alperen Sengun double teams, right? Whether he had the ball at the elbow or whether he was posting up on the strong side, they would have somebody from the weak side rather than just sitting in the weak side corner, which makes it really easy for that defender to cheat over and potentially be that weak side defender to help and stop Sengun right at the rim, as well as also just flat out playing the passing lane, because that's a really easy pass to intercept trying to throw from the low block to the opposite corner, unless you pull that defender all the way into you. If that defender's kind of halfway between you and the corner man, it's really easy to pick off those passes. Instead, we saw guys like Jabari Smith Jr., Amin Thompson. I think we even saw Dillon Brooks do it once. Instead of just sitting in that corner, cutting baseline and kind of camping under the basket as soon as Alpi started to make his moves. And it led to a lot of extra either second chance opportunities because they were in perfect position to get an offensive rebound, or just Alpi could dump it down low as soon as the double team came, and it led to some really effective offense, I felt like.
Yeah, no, I think that is exactly what happened. I mean, this has been building over the course of the season, especially with Amin Thompson. Amin Thompson is always making that baseline cut. If not, he's going to be in the dunker spot in that same spot anyway. And it was an excellent release valve for Alperen Sengun to hit guys for easy buckets throughout the course of the game, and kind of kept our offense flowing throughout the game. I really appreciated that. I thought it was really good. And I thought the doubles I thought the Clippers, sometimes they doubled them, sometimes they didn't, sometimes they sent half a defender, and it allowed for Alperen Sengun to make a lot of different types of decisions. Typically, it's all doubles and triple teams, right? So, but sometimes he got some one-on-one moments, and that's why he had such an all-around game to me. I do want to give him kudos on his assist total, 14. I mean, he was really finding guys. He had a cross-court pass to Cam Whitmore in the corner that was beautiful for a three. And I also want to talk about his rebounding. I thought 19 boards. This is what I'm talking about when I say superstar Alperen Sengun. He has to be a menace on the boards like he was tonight. I thought he was very effective in second chance points and just getting and making his presence felt on the boards tonight. I really felt like he controlled the paint tonight, and I'd like to see him control the paint in every game that he plays, all 82. And so that is the type of physicality I think Alperen Sengun has to bring to the table for him to reach his true potential as a superstar.
Speaking of physicality, right? This was a game where just as the game wore on, things got worse for the Rockets, better for the Clippers. I thought one of the big game changers in this one was Ivica Zubac was not himself. I believe he was playing through some kind of pain, discomfort, whatever. Just wasn't moving very well in this game. So Ty Lue opted to go to bench Zubac after the first half, after a really bad first half performance from him, where Sengun was just a beast on the glass in the first half. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say he had like 14 or 15 of his 19 rebounds in the first half. So that goes to show that when the second half got here and Mason Plumlee became the big for the Clippers, played 20 minutes all in the second half. So there was only 4 minutes in the second half where Mason Plumlee was not on the floor for the Clippers. Those very few small spurts where they went and played small ball instead. The physicality that Mason Plumlee brought to the game, I really thought kind of changed the dynamic of this one, where we talked about it earlier on, right? The Rockets pick and roll defense kind of waning, especially in the second half. I thought that Plumlee coming in brought a new screening presence, right? Brought new energy. He was basically playing his first quarter in the third quarter. So he wasn't tired. He wasn't worn out. He hadn't been banging with Sengun for the first 2 quarters of the game, dealing with the physicality of it, guarding him all. So he came in with fresh energy, fresh legs, and used he's one of those guys that he comes in and he leaves it all on the court, right? He's a hustle guy. He's going to go out there and bang and be physical and use every single one of the fouls that he has. He walked out of that game 20 minutes, 5 fouls. He was definitely using up those numbers. But I think it was definitely a game changer just from the sense of Harden and Plumlee were able to connect on some lobs in the second half that just weren't there for Zubac and Harden in the first half. He was a lot more physical on the boards. Again, 11 rebounds in just his 20 minutes of action, a big screening presence to kind of open guys up. I think that was also a big part of helping get Paul George going kind of in the second half, screening guys off of him, all that kind of stuff. I do want to highlight here, and I wanted to bring this up when we were talking about the late game execution thing in the first segment, but I do think one of the issues for the Rockets has been, and credit to Plumlee and credit to the Clippers when they did go small, like when Norm Powell or PG or Kawhi were the ones having to guard Sengun, they were fronting him, they were denying him the entry passes and stuff. The Rockets have to find a way. It is unacceptable that they can't find a way to get their best player the basketball in crunch time. It makes no sense to me, right? And you go through an entire game where you see exactly how effective the offense can be when guys are knocking down their shots, which the Rockets were. This was one of the best games where the Rockets knocked down their shots. They were 16 of 37 from 3, 43.2%. It was a phenomenal shooting night for them across the board. Across the board except for Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks, the Rockets' best three-point shooter, decided to take a night off when everybody else could actually hit from 3. But Jabari, 4 of 6. Fred, 4 of 9. Jalen, 2 of 6, which is respectable for him. Cam Whitmore, 3 of 7 off the bench. So this just goes to show that, for the late game execution, you have to find a way to get your best player the ball. And when he has the ball, he's going to get fouled. He's got to be able to hit the free throws. That's on Alpi, right? And so, but not being able to get him the ball to me is unacceptable. And there were multiple possessions late in this game where the Rockets just couldn't even get Alpi an entry pass because the Clippers were fronting him, denying him, doing whatever. That's on the coaching staff. That's on Ime Udoka to find more creative ways to get him the ball so that he can do something in the closing moments of a game rather than just being sidelined because you can't make a pass into your big man.
I think you're completely right. You just you have to scheme different ways to scheme him open, and other guys have to step up. And that's just the bottom line. If a guy's fronting and they're showing double and triple teams, there's typically other options for you. That gravity is leaving open areas of the floor. And there just wasn't enough from the other guys to convert on those opportunities. I mean, we've seen Fred VanVleet try and drive to the basket, and they weren't having any luck driving to the basket. Although I do think he hit big shots throughout the second half, big shot threes.
He had some nice steadying shots in the fourth quarter too. I want to give him credit for that.
Needed those. Yeah. But they just kind of dried up the further we went into the fourth quarter. And there was a nice read by Jalen Green to Jabari Smith Jr. for a layup that he missed. And it's just also, I think Plumlee, as you say, Plumlee's presence as a rim protector was really felt. They really didn't have any rim protection, even though there was no foul calls in the paint, so you could really just hack somebody. But they really had no rim protection outside of Plumlee, and Plumlee, I think, changed things, getting easy shots at the basket. Like Jalen and Cam had a lot of success against Tice in those 4 minutes. Tice was out there, had a lot of success at the rim, but a lot of that kind of got stymied once Plumlee was back in the game.
I thought by and large, the Rockets kind of offensively, right? They were more than good enough to win this game. Yes. They executed really well up until those final few minutes where, again, it just felt like things just completely dried up for the Rockets in those, final like 5 or 6 minutes. And again, a big part of that is just Clippers, more experienced team. They've been there. They've done that. They knew exactly who they were in the closing moments, right? It's get the ball to Kawhi, let him go to work, or let James Harden run pick and roll, have PG and Kawhi spaced on the wings. And that's all she wrote, right? The Rockets, their play through 3.5 quarters is get Sengun the ball, run the offense through him. And then suddenly when the Clippers were like, oh no, you're not going to get Sengun the ball anymore, it was like, crap. Well, what do we do? Right. And then it became, Jalen tries to create something, or Fred tries to force the issue and draw a foul call, but it's really easy to just, run him off the 3-point line. And there's not much else left for him to do. So the late game execution continues to be a theme for this team, the crunch time execution. But by and large, you look at the just overall effectiveness, offensively in this game. Rockets made 45 shots. They had 33 assists on their 45 makes. I think that's incredible. They were sharing the basketball. Everybody on the court except for Tate and Landale walked away with at least one assist for this Rockets team. Like Jabari had one really nice little pocket pass to Alpi, rolling to the rim, which I didn't even know that Jabari could hit that little pocket pass to Alpi. That was nice to see. Dillon Brooks had a few assists. Fred VanVleet, the usual, his 8. Again, Alperen Sengun with his career high 14. So it really did feel like they were moving the ball. They were making extra passes. They were making generally good reads, and converting at a really high rate on those. It's just all that kind of dried up at the end when the Clippers decided, hey, we're gonna lock in and prevent you guys from getting to what has gotten you so far into this game to this point. Coming up, we got to talk about Jabari Smith Jr.'s defense in this game, as well as final thoughts from this one, including Cam Whitmore continues to be a massive spark off the Rockets bench. He was working the Clippers in his minutes, 17 points in his 24 minutes played. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, you shouldn't have to worry when you're trying to buy tickets to your next big event. You're trying to go out and have a good time, right? You don't want to be stressed about the ticket buying experience. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events happening near you. They've got last-minute tickets, flash deals. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. You can see exactly what you're getting yourself into when you're buying your tickets. You get complete peace of mind with your purchase. They've got all-in prices, and they show you your total upfront. I don't know about you, but when I'm buying tickets to something, I hate times 1,000 when you go through the whole process, you're getting ready to check out, and at the very end, they're like, oh, you owe like a handling fee and a service fee and a convenience fee and all these additional fees, and you're winding up paying more in fees than you do for your actual tickets. It's the worst. You're not going to get any of that with Game Time. They are obsessed with finding you ways to help save money on tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And a final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, Madison, it was not a good game for Jabari Smith Jr., at least defensively. Offensively, he was solid. He was great offensively. 19 points, 6 of 11 shooting. He was 4 of 6 from downtown. I I don't know what happened to his rebounding. It seemingly disappeared overnight. Walked away with only 2 boards. One of the tallest players playing in this game, and he walked away with only 2 rebounds. So again, the physicality just not there from Jabari. And then I will say, I will give him, preface it right. He was questionable to play due to an illness coming into this game. So he might not have been 100%. Might have been playing through some sickness, some, whatever. But there was definitely points where you could tell that like Ime was favoring, different lineups or going with different guys just because Jabari was really struggling in this one. And it really felt like it was a night and day difference from the earlier meetup this season where Jabari was transcendent defensively, guarding guys like PG, Kawhi, Harden, took turns guarding all 3 of the big names for the Clippers earlier this season and did a phenomenal job on each one of them at various points in the game. In this game, felt like he was getting cooked left, right, and center. Didn't matter who he was guarding. If it was on Kawhi, he was getting bodied and bulldozed. If it was on PG, he was getting crossed up left, right, and center. He had the one where PG stopped and pulled it back.
Yeah.
And dude, Jabari went flying. It looked like, oh my God, what was the James Harden one on Wesley Johnson? It looked like that one. Thank God Paul George didn't hit the 3, man. Like, oh my God. And it didn't look. I was watching the ESPN feed. Paul George didn't even hit the 3, and they replay that thing like 4 times. Like if he had hit the 3, I don't know if I would have gotten to see any more of the game. Like they would have just kept playing that on repeat for the rest of the game.
Yeah, man. I've talked about this, about Jabari Smith's perimeter defense specifically. To me, it's not as advertised. He's not, even though he's very coordinated, he's a very coordinated big, he is not quick twitch enough to be guarding star wings on the perimeter. And let's just be honest, he's an average wing defender. That's what he is. He shouldn't be put on the island to guard these superstar wings like this, because he's proven over and over again that he can't do it. The only superstar wing that I think he has success against is Luka Doncic, and it's not really success. I just think he plays him very well. You know what I mean? But Luka still gets his, and that's because Luka is not quick twitch. You know what I mean? But to me, the defensive plays against Kawhi Leonard all throughout the game and in the fourth quarter just was more of the same that I've been talking about Jabari. Jabari doesn't feel he doesn't even trust his quick twitch ability to guard up on players like Kawhi, and he gives them way too much space, and he tries to make up with it with his length. And that type of stuff will work on average offensive players. But for Kawhi Leonard, that is way too easy in crunch time. When we need to stop, you need to be up in Kawhi's face, and we need a better team game plan for stopping him. But honestly, the and-one Kawhi made, I mean, that was just way too much space, man. And any type of move that Kawhi put on him, he's been biting way too much. He's been giving up way too much space on the perimeter, and it's not effective at all. And
he didn't even have to put a move on him on that dribble, because it was the Paul George 3, and then the very next possession was the Kawhi and one jumper from mid range. He was just doing the lullaby dribble, and then he realized Jabari was giving him like a mountain of space. Yeah. And it was just like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna pull up, and then he tapped him on the elbow, and that was that.
And it was like a pound dribble. It's the lullaby dribble and 1 pound. And Jabari's biting to that, taking 2 steps back, and he's already 3 steps back. It's just like, bro, that's bad defense. And if you're going to pride yourself on being an elite defensive player in this league, you have to be better than this for your team. If that's who you're going to be defensively, bro, that won't last in this league. You're supposed to bring toughness. That's what when we drafted Jabari Smith Jr., we thought we were going to get a tough, hard-nosed defender, point blank, right? And to me, this is weak, and I know he's better than that. And I just need him to get it together. I don't know if you were sick or not. 2 rebounds, that was terrible. Last game, he was horrible defensively as well. And that's the type of stuff I understand as a young player, they're going to be ups and downs, right? But those are the type of things that I need him to identify and to take more pride in, and really take the challenge and not being afraid to get broken off, because he's getting broken off because he's scared, right? You look scared out there, Jabari Smith. You don't look like you belong out there guarding those guys on the perimeter, and that's why you're biting at everything, and that's why you're playing so far back. You need to get out there, and you're coordinated enough to do this. Get in these guys' body, be physical with them. They were not calling fouls tonight, so you could have been overly physical. You play the refs. The refs are not calling a lot of fouls tonight. You be physical, but you can't just give these guys open mid-range jumpers. It's unacceptable in the fourth quarter. I just felt like the shots that they got were just way too easy.
And it's extra frustrating because we've seen him, I know you're harping on his perimeter defense right here. And maybe he's not quite at the level of, as advertised what we'd hope he'd become by now, but we've seen him have success and lock up on the perimeter against star level players. Like it's happened. So it's not like and the problem is when we're talking, offense, yeah, you can have a flash in the pan, a hot streak, 5 games, 10 games, whatever, and then revert back to normal, right? Get back to your normal numbers, regress to the mean, whatever you want to call it. Defense is there. You can have the same defensive effort, the same defensive impact every single game because your defense, that's a you thing. You decide how aggressive you're going to be on defense. You decide how much energy, whether you're going to hustle after that loose ball, whether you're going to try to make the extra play, whether you're going to be inside the jersey of the guy that you're guarding, not give him any space, make him work for every bucket that he gets, all that stuff. So again, I'm going to give Jabari a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on this one. I think he did not look like himself. Yeah, so not 100% from Jabari. Need to see, a bounce back from him because it's been a rough couple games in a row. I'll tell you who didn't have a rough game, though. Cam Whitmore, who continues to be a scoring phenom off the Rockets bench. So much so that Ime, I feel like staggered his lineup intentionally in that third quarter where he brought Sengun out earlier than anticipated and came in with Cam Whitmore. And it very much felt like when the Rockets had about an 8 or a 10-point lead when Ime made the substitution, he took Sengun out with like 5 minutes left to go in the quarter. And I thought, that's kind of weird. That's really early to bring Sengun out. He did it so that he could bring Sengun back with the second unit to have Sengun run the second unit, and so that the offense wouldn't dry up for the second unit. And instead, he leaned heavily on Cam Whitmore and Jalen Green once Sengun went to the bench. He put Fred off ball. He brought Jock Landale in, and credit to Jock Landale, even though he hasn't been incredible in his minutes, he's been at least serviceable these last few games. And the one thing that Jock Landale can still do at a very high level is he's a great screener, right? We've talked about this before. Sengun is the best screener on the team. Actually, Jock Landale might be a better screener than Sengun is, arguably, but Sengun's gravity, I think, all encompassing. He's just a better threat in the pick and roll. But Jock Landale can still come in, set hard screens, open up guys like Jalen and Cam and Fred, and then get them downhill, get the offense rolling, get the defense in rotation, that kind of thing, to start generating some of those looks. So it felt like Ime leaned on Cam, especially in that little stretch in that third quarter, Cam and Jalen specifically. Cam was awesome, though. 17 points in 24 minutes played, 7 of 15 shooting. He was 3 of 7 from downtown. He had 2, 3, 4. I don't know how many different outlet plays he had where Rockets would get a stop or a steal and Cam was just gone like the other way. He had the one where where he got the ball, he caught it, got one gather dribble and then went back up and kissed it off the glass. And Paul George was right behind him trying to contest it. He had another one where he finished through Kawhi Leonard, Kawhi Leonard was there trying to contest him, and he had a full head of steam, and Kawhi could not keep up with him. And Cam took one dribble, and it wasn't a Euro, but he just kind of got to the inside of the glass and then went up and finished. Cam was a terror in transition in this game, and he knocked down some big threes as well.
Yeah, Cam was especially elite in that second quarter. I think he had 9 in that second quarter. I mean, he was one-man fast break. We even got the nice windmill that was very, very aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, so Cam once again is coming through on the bench, and I really like these lineups with Jalen because both of them are going to do, they're going to get out and run, and their teammates know, and they try and look up and get the ball ahead to them. And Cam is an incredible finisher in the open floor. He also knocked down some timely threes tonight, and I really like the lineup of Jalen and Cam against second units. I think those guys play well together. I thought they moved the ball and initiated the offense together, with dribble handoffs with one another. And it led to a Cam open three and some nice drives from Jalen at the basket. So I really like to see more of that. And honestly, with the way Cam was playing offensively tonight, and with the lack of toughness defensively from Jabari, I would like to see Cam kind of close this game with more energy. Now, his help side defense was still kind of lacking tonight. Speaking of help side defense, I just got to do a quick shout out to Jalen for breaking up a alley hoop,
the lob to Zubats.
Lob.
Yeah, there was the one lob to we talked about it earlier that James didn't have a single lob to Zubats in this game, and it's because Jalen broke up that one the weak side. Yeah, that was a beautiful. I clipped that one during the game because it was such an impressive defensive play. I was like, hell yeah, Jalen.
I had to tweet it because that is what we've been asking for all game. And so when we talk about help side, low man help, we're talking about what Jalen Green did on that play when you're in the pick and roll, which it just went completely away in the second half. And that was largely due to, I believe, Cam was the weak side man on a lot of those plays. And he's just a step behind. And when you're a step behind on those plays, they're dunks, right? But if you know it, if you already are reading those plays before they're coming, you can be like Jalen and you can actually disrupt a play like that on a 7-footer, right? With your athleticism. And that is basketball IQ. That is growth. That is the type of stuff we want to see from this young team. So yes, it was a bummer that we lost tonight, but there was a lot of good to take from this game. And we can tell that our young guys are really growing in this offense, learning how to play within the confines of this offense, getting better defensively, and are starting to become a little bit more consistent. Yes, not as consistent as we would like for us to get these consistent wins, but these guys are improving. And those are the little things that we're talking about.
As one of the founding members of the original Jabari Jungle, I'm going to throw my guy a bone here. He had a great weak side block on Zubats early in the game too. It was that scrambled defensive possession, and he came in from the weak side, blocked it from behind, and it was Zubats was not having his night. He was having a rough night in and around the rim, and there's a reason he only played 15 minutes and didn't get any second half burn in this one. But to your point about more Jalen and Cam minutes together, Rockets pre All-Star break were 17th in the NBA in pace. Post All-Star break, they were up to 4th in the NBA in pace. We're going to tackle that more on our next episode with one of your other weekly co-hosts, Ali Khan Bijani. We're going to tackle the exclusive interview that Kelly Iko did with Ime Udoka, as well as some of the pace numbers and the way that the Rockets have changed their offense post All-Star break. But we also want to hear from you guys. What's the biggest issue with the Rockets' late game execution? Let us know in the YouTube comments. Always on the lookout for y'all's commentary. Love hearing what you guys have to say in the YouTube comments. Madison, you know the drill. Let everybody know where to track you down at.
You can find me on Twitter or X at MadmanLeaks. Come talk Rockets basketball with me.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked on Rockets, and I'm just now realizing it as we round down the show. The Rockets lost the belt. They had the NBA belt, the champion belt, for all of one day before they lost it. Unfortunately, they claimed it from the Spurs, and they lost it to the Clippers, but that's going to do it for another edition. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, the Odyssey app, free and available, all podcast platforms. We're also available on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked on Rockets. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked on Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.